Maytag month has got it going on. It's all you want with the savings all month long. Baby, can't you see? Maytag month is all you need. You know you can't go wrong when Maytag month is going on.
Save on award-winning performance on all Maytag major appliances during May is Maytag month. Happening now through May 31st.
Shop incredible savings on Maytag at NFM.
Maytag month is going on.
Looking for a new show to dive into? Well, go to Hulu and see what's new, because Hulu has new stuff all the time. Like the full season of FX's epic limited series Shogun, FX's new international spy thriller The Veil, starring Emmy and Golden Globe winner Elizabeth Moss. And don't miss the all-new crime series Under the Bridge, inspired by shocking true events and starring Riley Keough and Lily Gladstone. It's all new, and it's streaming now on Hulu.
For exclusive podcasts and more, sign up at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, his assignment was to retrieve a wealthy playboy from Europe. Instead, he hatched a scheme to trade places and live a life of luxury. We'll discuss the Netflix thriller, Ripley. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us is private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of the Piper Green series of cozy mysteries, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca. And I am now a foot scooter rider as well.
I'm very excited to talk to you about that. For those who don't understand how the show works, taping our after show after this show that you will have heard last Monday if you were on Patreon. So I'm excited to ask you all about that. And finally, our resident Doubting Thomas, author of the City Trilogy of novels, host of Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast host, Toby Ball. Hi, Toby.
Hello, Rebecca.
So, Kevin, this is obviously Thursday's program.
Yep, obvious to everybody.
Yes, it is obvious to everybody. What is coming up on Monday's show?
Yeah, on Monday, we're going to be talking about the podcast Witnessed 19 Days.
Ooh, that's exciting.
It is.
You know what I want to talk about on next week's after show?
No, tell me now.
I want to talk about my adventures in Montana.
All right, yeah. Make sure that they're good, because sometimes you go away and then like shit happens and we have to do like free bonus episodes
That's
to
true.
explain what the fuck went on.
That's true. Wait, when did that happen?
Moving on. Leading off.
Okay. Well, we are all excited to talk about what we're talking about. So I think we should do that and get right to it. What do you think, Kevin?
Do it.
Let's go ahead and drop that first clip right now. Leading off.
I don't suppose you have any vacation time coming up or leave of absence.
You mean to go there?
To talk to him face to face. Of course, they take care of all your expenses in addition to a salary. That goes without saying. Will you think about it?
Grifter Thomas Ripley is hired by a wealthy businessman to convince his prodigal son to return home from his extended holiday in Italy. But instead, he ingratiates himself with Dickie Greenleaf and shares his host's life of luxury. Once he overstays his welcome, Ripley hatches a plan to get rid of Dickie and assume his playboy identity.
Are you staying with him in Rome?
For a while, I guess. Help him get settled.
But you don't know where he's staying.
He said he'd leave me a message at American Express there once he knows where he's staying. And that's where you should write him, if you write him.
Instead of Easy Street, Ripley finds himself living one step ahead of Dickie's suspicious girlfriend Marge and an Italian detective investigating the missing playboy. Can the talented con man keep up the ruse and avoid getting tangled in the web of lies he's spun?
Well, I was planning on going to Palermo.
When?
Tomorrow.
No. It is important you do not do that. You may know who is such a person, who the person is in relations with the deceased, and so on.
Netflix's series Ripley stars Andrew Scott and Dakota Fanning and is based on the book The Talented Mr. Ripley. The moody black and white thriller is punctuated with rich symbolism, awe-inspiring scenery, and heart-stopping suspense, wrapped around a tour de force performance by Scott. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about plot points from Ripley. So if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Laura, have you seen the first Talented Mr. Ripley film with Matt Damon before you watched this series?
I have seen it, but it has been a long time since I've seen it.
Okay, so this made a big stylistic change in many ways. And one of the big stylistic changes it made was to be shot in black and white. I think a really interesting choice there for myriad reasons. What did you think about that choice?
I think that was really stylistically, it was, at first I was like, The more it went on, it really started to hit me. And there were a couple scenes where it just like the impact of being in black and white, scenes where there was blood and the blood looks black was, definitely scenes where we have buildings and architecture that just have a whole different appearance, black and white, because of the color scheme that we're looking at, the lack of color scheme. But overall, it just added this layer of like darkness, noir, Alfred Hitchcock, that as it went on kind of notched up the suspense. And for me, kind of this visceral reaction to some of the scenes as they were unfolding because I was looking at them in black and white. It really was a really interesting decision. And I think kind of sets it apart because when have we watched something that's black and white? I mean, do you guys remember anything?
Not recently, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's very art house, isn't it? Yeah, it is really unique in the way it's shot and the feel that it has. I mean, there are entire extended scenes with no dialogue and just sometimes some subtle action or huge consequential action, and there's no dialogue. I think it's a daring, creative choice. I think the series is filled with a lot of daring choices. And as you say, Laura, it's shot beautifully. The scenery is just beautiful location porn, and it's made even more striking by the monochromatic palette that we have here because all of Italy's rock and marble comes off as being very clean white, right? And so it sparkles, and we really bathe in this sort of sumptuous cinematography because the editing is sort of slow and the whole thing is sort of paced. So we're just sort of like soaking in it.
Yeah, so Toby, the style of this is not just artifice, in my opinion. Like the way that it's shot, the fact that it's black and white, the editing choices, the look of the series is, to me, part of the storytelling of the series, the framing of the shots, the way it feels, the way it looks. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it does a bunch of things. I mean, I think like the noir aspect of it is a big part of it. I mean, Patricia Highsmith has written some great noir books. I think the most famous of her movies, I guess up until The Talented Mr. Ripley, is Strangers on a Train, which I believe is in black and white. You know, it's not really paranoia that goes on, but I think it's a sense of, I don't know, that these are small people engaged in this little drama that's going on. And I don't know exactly why being shot in black and white makes that sort of more visceral. But I guess to me, all these things feel kind of fraught. And I think in that way, it's very much like the book. Like I went through my Patricia Highsmith period and read a bunch of her books. And that's very much the way her books feel, is that stuff is happening and it may not be like on the surface very unusual or anything, but there's just this sort of sense of unease all the time about what's going on. And I kind of felt as though this kind of got that across in a way. And I don't know, maybe it's some kind of association that people have with black and white sort of noirish movies that you've got some expectations about what's going to happen. And Kevin was talking about the pacing where there's just, I mean, there's scenes that go on for a while and you could sum them up in one sentence. But at the same time, at least I felt myself very gripped by them, and they just sort of combined to create this sort of mood. Even though it moves slowly, there's a tension to it, I thought, that's sort of always present.
You guys think that maybe the black and white, one of the things that it does is it helps situate the story in the time period? I think this is the time period where it was written, like 50s, 60s, right? That instead of like thinking for a second that it's 2024, where there's cell phones and, you know, a quick Google search would, the jig would be up. But like it helps establish not only scene and mood, but also time and place, right?
I think that's part of it, but I think it also allows for some of the tricks you talked about. I mean, we have extended scenes of him just walking up and down stairs, right? To me, those scenes would be less visually. I mean, I like think of myself like thinking about when I was watching the scenes, I thought about what they meant while I was watching them in a way that I wouldn't in color, because in color, I think it would be clearer, like the sweat on his shirt. I think it would be clearer, like, you know, what's his hair doing right now? I think it would be clearer, like, you know, the color of the candle in the little niche, right? Like, who's lighting that candle? Like, I'd be thinking about more things in the shot instead of thinking about what is that shot? I mean, that shot is him climbing to Dickie's palace, right? Having to like climb all those stairs, figure out where he's going. And there's like so many stairs in this fucking movie. Like he's always going up. He's going up to the 3rd floor. He's going up to the 6th floor. His apartment in Rome is like up on it's like always up,
yeah,
right?
It's symbolic.
Except after he's killed somebody, he's walking down. It's always like
his one
every time he does like a bad thing or is about to get caught, he's going down. And every time he's like aspirational, he's going up. It's like,
well, it's like, yeah, he's trying to see, he's like literally climbing the social ladder, but going up the stairs, and it shows like what lengths he's willing to go to get there.
Do you notice when he's spying on Dickie and Marge when talking about him, he's like a little bit lower level than them. He's on that little like that little landing in the staircase, and he's looking slightly up at them like they're in a little painting, like in a museum.
It's framed,
yeah. So it's like everything is like he's below the things he wants, and then when he's above, he has to descend every time because he's gonna, you know, he has done something bad. It's just, but see, when I'm watching it in black and white, like those are the things that come to me right away. And if I were in color, I think I would be like, look, because it's so beautiful. It's Italy, for fuck's sakes, right? And I'd be so like everywhere. Like, look at the wall, look at the blue water, look at the scene, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I mean, one of the scenes where I think we were able to so focus on the visuals and the action is the murder scene, because, and I think like the action of the murder scene is one of the most like creatively shot and like driven by physicality and like practical effects scenes, and like the breathing and just like the complication of getting into a fucking boat.
You're taking this better than I thought you would.
Why wouldn't I?
I don't know.
Maybe because all I've offered you is my friendship and respect and asked for nothing in return.
That's the issue.
What else would it be?
Do you want me to say it?
Laura Bricker, like that scene is amazing, right?
Yeah, that's where I actually started to like the show, because the first 2 episodes, I was like, this is so slow. This is boring. I don't know why Toby liked it. Once we got to that, and I was
such
like,
a Laura thing to say.
And I was like, but we get to that boat murder scene, and I was like shrieking, was sitting there watching. I was like, because it was so prolonged. It was like, first of all, the death scenes are so realistic. When he's hitting him with the oar from the boat, and then we're watching the life leave Dickie, but then just watching him then methodically go through what he's going to do next, and how obviously also Tom Ripley not very strong, because every time he goes to lift up a body, he like drops them the first time. I noticed that with both bodies.
He's also not that good at con man. Like no one is good at anything in this movie. Let's be real.
So he's like trying to pick, but then when he falls out of the boat, watching the underwater version of the boat coming at him and the propeller, and then when he's trying to get back in and the propeller is like literally like right next to his, you know, thing.
Crotch.
I'm like, he's going to be castrated right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And he like climbs back in. But it was like, I think also like a window into this character, which I think is such a darker version of this character, Tom Ripley, than we've seen. Like this is more of like a sociopath version. And you see this like very cold, calculated approach to the way that he kills people.
But that's accurate to the books.
Yeah.
Like in the books, killing somebody is just like another way of taking care of a problem for him.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing as like weeding his garden or whatever. He's just it plays into his calculus as far as like, how can I either avoid something or achieve something? But the idea of actually ending somebody's life is just, you know, it's just another kind of thing he has to take care of.
But isn't that the trick that's being played on the reader or the viewer, is that like he's a psychopath that you end up being like, I want him to get away with this. And you want him to get away with it because he almost, I mean, to me, the reason it works is because he almost doesn't so many times. It's like, if he were so good at it, if this was like an Ocean's 11 situation where he was just succeeding and succeeding and succeeding, you'd be like, Jesus fucking Christ, will somebody catch him already? But the fact that he like is always on the brink of failure, you're like, oh God, I hope he wins. And meanwhile, he's fucking psychotic. I mean, Kevin, that's what I take from it.
Well, what did they remove from the title?
The Talented.
Talented, right? Because actually nobody in this is talented in any way, right? Dickie can't fucking paint. It looks like he's in kindergarten, right?
George Bush is a way better painter than
Marge
Dickie.
is not a great writer, obviously. Maybe Ripley is a better copy editor or whatever because he's got lots of notes. But Ripley isn't a great con man. We see him, kicks it in New York because he's too chicken to go through with it at the bank.
What balance? I paid him.
By cash or by check?
By check.
Well, it was not received.
Well, I sent it.
And that's why you ignored the late notices.
I didn't receive any late notices. I don't understand.
Mr. Reddington, I can tell that you're getting agitated. There's really no reason to.
The difference, I think, between this Ripley and maybe the other movie one is that this Ripley's not like the super genius escape artist, right? Where it's smooth. It seems a little bit like he doesn't have all the steps planned out, maybe the first two, and it gets a little dicey about what's he going to do with his body now. One of the great scenes, Laura, when we're talking about in the boat, is that, again, no dialogue. So, you're just reading Andrew Scott's face. It's like, I'm going to, we've got this anchor, but he can't get the anchor undone. We see him, start pouring gasoline on. What the fuck?
You're lighting a boat you're on fire.
Yeah, well, it's black and white. We don't realize it's a metal boat, so it's not going to burn that way, but we don't know that at first, and he's just sitting there watching. He kind of gets lucky in some of these ways. He may be devious, but he's not a supervillain, right?
Well, I thought you were going to talk about the scene where he gets the ring off of his finger by putting blood on the finger to make it greasier to get it off. I was like, oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord.
I love how he takes his stuff.
I know.
Oh, yeah. The thing he always sets him up on the, whenever he goes to a place, he sets up Dickie's stuff on a counter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think it's the mood or the basic outlook is more consistent with the books than the movie was. Because I think one of the things that comes through in the Talented Mr. Ripley book and in some of our other stuff is just, it's not as hard not to get caught as you would think. You don't have to have this great escape plan or whatever. You can just do this little stuff and people just aren't going to figure it out, right? A small ruse can make it. And I thought, I don't remember if this is in the book or not, but the decision, in the movie, Dickie and Marge aren't just sort of beautiful rich people, but Dickie can really play the saxophone and Marge, you get the feeling, can really write, and they're both smart and talented. And in this, they're just both total dilettantes, right?
Yeah.
They're just rich people, kids.
Wasting their time.
They don't have anything else to do. Their parents are back in New York, wondering what's going on with them, sending them money. And I thought it was just kind of interesting that Ripley actually is better at all this shit than they are, but he still aspires to be them, right? So he can paint better than Dickie, he can write better than Marge, but still they're at this sort of thing that he wants to be, which I think is essentially like a wealthy, layabout. And he doesn't quite understand that sort of urge in himself, or
he wants people to admire his pen. Toby is what he wants.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like the accoutrements of wealth, right? He's got a nice pen. He's got Dickie's kind of cool stuff that he always lines up. He's like, oh yeah, and then so as soon as he gets access to money, he's like, I'm gonna get a fucking villa in Venice, and he gets it, and it's super nice. He's got it made and stuff. So he's he gets to the point where, okay, I've got this. I'm handing it out with all these fancy people that I don't actually want to go and see. I just thought the whole thing was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you'll feel like a millionaire if you join us on Patreon.
That's right.
For all the great stuff that you get. Patreon.com/Partners in Crime Media.
We'll give you a villa in Rome or Venice.
I was looking back at April on Patreon, and I got to tell you that last month, and this is pretty typical, we had 18 exclusive podcast drops and 1 live recording.
Holy shit.
So depending on what level you support us at, you can get that. If you support us at the leading off level, what you'll do is you'll get every week the Crime Writers on After show. And you'll also get an edition of Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club and our Married with Podcast podcast.
Yeah.
Our podcast?
Yeah.
I hate saying
Married
it like
with podcast.
If you join us at the Bricker scale level, you get
$1
an additional podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast. And if you come in at the Let's Do What We Do level, you're going to get all these episodes of Crime Writers on early and ad-free. So you would already know what our reviews are, if you can't guess by the tone of our discussion already. And if you're a deep diver, you can even participate in Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club recordings. Now, we also have an Amazon storefront where you can see some of our favorite things. Rebecca, what are this week's Amazon recommendations?
All right, mine's a little bit of a splurge, but I love it so much, I gotta say. I love my Vitamix blender. I love it. It could turn a brick into sand. I love that shit so much.
And Toby Ball, what are your listener-inspired deep cut recommendations?
I'll start off with the Drunk Elephant TLC Framboos Glycolic Night Serum.
Fuck yeah.
Care Brightening Night Serum. Repackaging 30 milliliters / 1 fluid ounce. And then I realized that I picked one that I'd already picked before because I'm still so intrigued by the idea that lip balm is vegan. It's a special vegan lip balm, and wondering what kind of animal part I'm rubbing on my lips normally. But since I've already done that, this is another one that's had some questions for me. It's Aqua Bliss High Output Revitalizing Shower. I can't tell. Does that say filter? Filter. Reduces dry, itchy skin, dandruff, eczema, and dramatically improves the condition of your skin. And then it is HAI. And I'm not sure how that gets finished because I don't know what skin
Probably
hair is.
Yeah.
I was guessing skin hair, but I've never heard it quite put that way. Anyway, those are my 2 picks.
Yeah, those are some deep cut recommendations. Remember to shop us first at Amazon.com. When you go on Amazon, go here first. Amazon.com/shop/Crime Writers On. We earn commissions on all qualified purchases.
That's right. You can buy the stuff you were going to buy anyway using our link. That's how it works. Right, Kevin?
Right.
All right, Kevin, before we end the business section, I have a very important question for you.
Ask away.
Do we have any Patreon patron saints of the week this week?
Our Patreon patron saints are Sarah Beth Keeler and Lindsay Douglas. Bless you.
Bless you, Sarah. Bless you, Lindsay. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. And for those of you who are considering it, I really recommend you try it back there. I think you're going to like it a lot more than you know. All right, Kevin, should we get back to the program now?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. You know, I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle Grow is simply the best.
Maytag month has got it going on. It's all you want with the savings all month long. Baby, can't you see? Maytag month is all you need. You know you can't go wrong when Maytag month is going on.
Save on award-winning performance on all Maytag major appliances during May is Maytag month. Happening now through May 31st.
Shop incredible savings on Maytag at NFM.
Maytag month is going on.
So, Kevin, who is our next sponsor on this program?
We're sponsored by Quince.
Oh, Quince, yay! I just ordered something from Quince.
Yeah, okay, so the weather's getting warmer, and we're putting away, all those winter sweaters and the big jackets, and you know what you find out?
You need stuff.
You don't have anything really great for the warmer weather, so this is a great time to look into the great deals they have at Quince. They have premium European linen dresses, blouses, shorts from $30, washable silk tops, 14-karat gold jewelry, so much more. All Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
Yep, I just ordered something from Quince. Literally, just did.
What did you get?
I have this cardigan that I have there in this light blue color. It's this cotton and linen boyfriend fit cardigan that I got last summer that I love so much. I just ordered a second one in camel because I wear it all the time. I love it so much, and I ordered a new one. I love it.
Okay, so I guess that's a personal endorsement?
It is. I love Quince. I love it so much.
Get warm, weather ready with Quince. Go to quince.com/crime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/crime. To get free shipping and 365-day returns, QUINCE.com/crime.
All right, so I want to talk about the casting of Ripley. Toby, we were just talking to you, but I'm going to come back to you anyway. there's a very interesting person who appears in this series, and that is Sting's offspring, Elliot Sumner, as Freddie. Now, when I found out that Elliot Sumner was Sting's child, I could not see it. What did you think of Elliot Sumner as Freddie, the almost foil to the talented Mr. Ripley?
So, I mean, I hate because I keep comparing it to the book and the movie. In the movie, Freddie is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That's
who's
right.
Obviously great in everything and is great in that role. But he does sort of a different take. And I think Elliot Sumner is so, kind of a disconcerting presence in that we identify with Tom and they are clearly suspicious from the get-go. And of all the people that you kind of run into, seems to be the smartest. And I think that's sort of Tom's take as well, is that he's like kind of trying to throw out these kind of excuses that seem to work with everybody else about he can't produce Dickie and where Dickie is or whatever. And Freddie just seems to see through it.
No. We've met before in New York. Where? Bob Delancey's maybe.
I don't think so.
No, I think it was there. At his apartment on Stanton Street. A party. I'm sure of it.
Don't remember. Sorry.
Like Tom has some kind of lizard brain reaction when they first meet, doesn't like Freddie. And then when Freddie comes to Rome after Dickie's dead and Tom's trying to juggle all these how he's portraying different things to different people, Freddie's the one who can kind of see through it. So I thought Elliot Sumner, who is Sting's kid, they were incredible. Their presence I thought was so, because you're kind of identifying with Tom, is just so disconcerting. And it's this seems to be sort of the place where he could really get sort of found out. So he does what he does, which is he solves the problem.
That's right, with his ashtray. And then Laura, in the longest cover-up scene I have ever seen.
Oh my God.
Where not only does he, bring Freddie down the stairs so that the cat witnesses him, and then outside and pretends to make out with Freddie, and then puts Freddie in the car and drives Freddie out to the country, and then comes back to his apartment, but then remembers has to go back and get Freddie's passport, and it goes all the way. What did you think about prolonged Freddie murder scene?
Well, like I said, the murder scenes in this for me were so, they were like a slow simmer, ongoing suspense throughout, because every time something happens, you're like, oh my God, is he going to get away with it this time? And it was so slow and deliberate. And I have to say that ashtray, by the way, I liked the way that they filmed, and that ashtray kept showing up as almost like a character.
The corpse of Signor Malaise was found on the Via Piantica.
What?
Yes, this is so. He was killed.
How?
Bludgeoned? Struck on the head by some heavy instrument.
But this murder scene, I would like to say, first of all, I'm happy that a cat was one of the main characters in this elaborate long scene. And that was a giant cat. I think it might have been a Norwegian forest.
Yeah, or something.
I think it was Norwegian forest cat. Yeah. It was fucking huge.
Yeah.
But the cat was just sitting there silently judging, and then later is blamed for the blood on the stairs by the lady because she thinks he's killed a mouse. But it was... You're watching it. And again, I'm Tom Ripley, not very strong, because he's trying to pick up this body, dropping the body, draping the body around him, putting the body in the car. The guy's walking the dog. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And then that's when I found myself in this weird frame of mind where I'm oh God, I'm rooting for this guy to get away with this. This is horrible. What's happened to me? Why am I rooting for this guy? I don't know. You guys felt the same way.
Yes.
But it's you realize and you're oh, he's so close now. And then I'm is he going to a bar? No, he was getting a taxi,
Yeah, outside the bar.
Yeah, those things you talk about, they're very Hitchcockian. Is that the right
That's adjective? Yeah, that's probably the right adjective.
Yeah, because one of the things that Hitchcock would do, he'd have these motifs about really how difficult it is to commit a murder and get rid of the body, or at least that he liked to sort of play with that cheeky. There was some movie, I forget what it was, but it was a husband and wife trying to kill, it was either a cop or a soldier or something like that, and they stick a knife in him and the knife breaks and they try to beat him with something and that doesn't work, and then we see this in the whole, how many times he's got to strike Dickie, and he falls out of the boat and he said, and the boat's running and it nearly, cuts him up, and when Freddy, like the moving the body, not only are these scenes that like take a long time, but there's like peril at every turn where you're holding your breath and intentionally making it difficult. Because I think it was Toby who pointed out, like the dialogue is probably, a couple of lines, but as far as like the action of the screenplay, like it goes on and on and on.
Oh my God, Kevin, the detail. He has Freddy's keys and he walks out and every car is a Fiat.
Yes, there's a great one.
There's so many
There's
details.
a great one. But it's very Hitchcockian, like you're afraid of being found out by the inspector and he's putting his cigarette in the murder weapon.
Yeah.
Or we see them walking by, you said the bloody
tub.
And it's like, that's where he's going to be exposed. And so it's like the time bomb underneath the table that the characters don't know, but we do. And we're freaking out about this. And so I thought that was really great. You've got the cat prints, like you said, and, it really keeps us holding our breath. And so I think it has, in addition to the black and white, because Hitchcock did a lot of stuff black and white, of course, Psycho and other ones. But I think Strangers on a Train was, I think, also shot in black and white. I think that's just a real tip of the cap to the master of thriller suspense. And unlike, Brian De Palma that kind of does it ham-fisted, this was done, I thought, really, really well.
Yeah, it's like the ashtray scenes reminded me of like when in films, like when somebody murders somebody and then like they end up with like frozen meat and people are eating it, kind of like.
Yes. That was also a Hitchcock. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kevin, I just wanted to ask you about the pen. The pen is like a fucking character in this series.
Yeah, it's
the
another
Mont Blanc
great
pen, right?
Yeah, it's another great symbol of like his jealousy
but
here.
It's so fucking specific because not everybody, I think, knows. Unlike a Rolex watch, right? Unlike a fancy car, unlike an Italian suit, not everybody in the world knows that you can have a pen that only some people will look at and be like, oh, that's a good pen.
Right. Remember, at first he takes it and then he gives it back. Right? Like, here he is kind of testing out the boundaries and like feeling about, can I belong to this world?
What does it feel like to hold this pen? Yeah.
And then, of course, he takes it after he kills Dickie. And then he makes a show always of pulling it out to sign him. It's like, everyone's like, oh, nice pen. But did you know that when he goes to that hideout hotel, sort of the real step down where he literally goes down the stairs for the first time, he didn't use the pen. He didn't pull out the Mont Blanc pen. He used the little pen and the register to sign in, right? So again, just like, the freezer with the ice cube trays and like how that symbolizes sticking around, there's just great thematic and symbolism throughout this. So I have to say, it's a great thriller mystery, but there's so much to watch and enjoy on the periphery that if you are, I think if you listen to this podcast, you probably do dig some of that stuff. And I think there's a lot here to enjoy.
The refrigerator was such an object of menace for him. Like he was so like the refrigerator symbolized like Marge and Dickie's like
permanence
and their relationship. And the refrigerator became like such an object of hatred. It was so funny to me. And then when you see the refrigerator, it's so diminutive and small.
Tiny refrigerator.
And you're like, you imagine, and I think this is completely deliberate. It's a period appropriate refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
And like the idea that someone would have had to carry the refrigerator up all those stairs is hilarious. But like, it's totally appropriate that refrigerator would be that size. But when you see it, it's like a visual joke. Like this is what he's upset about. Is this stupid fucking tiny?
The Sean Spicer refrigerator.
Well, I think they did a couple of those sort of visual jokes. Like the other one is like when Marge is talking about like she's been working on this book for her year and her great masterpiece. And there's just like a few pieces of paper, and you're like, oh, that's what you've accomplished in this year, Marge.
That's right. It's like there's just so much clever about it. Or I love the train scenes, buying the 6 tickets and then you realize it's just the one car. Like there are so many moments where you're just like, oh, it's that. Oh, it's that. It's just like a tour de force visually, tour de force viscerally, like.
And the acting. We even talked about the acting. The acting's great.
Hi, it's Martha Stewart. I spend a lot of time thinking about dirt. At 3 a.m., at all hours of the day, really. What people don't know is that not all dirt is the same. You need dirt with the right kind of nutrients. New Miracle Grow organic raised bed and garden soil is so dense, so full of nutrient-rich, high-quality ingredients. Miracle Grow is simply the best.
For 25 years, nothing has tasted better after a hard day's work than a Mike's Hard Lemonade. It's because since day one, Mike's has been making lemonade the hard way. We use 3 kinds of lemons, all hand-picked from family farms, then blended to perfection and cold pressed to create the epic hard lemonade you know and love. Mike's Hard Lemonade. Hard days deserve a hard lemonade. Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors. All registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Company, Chicago, Illinois.
Looking for a new show to dive into? Well, go to Hulu and see what's new, because Hulu has new stuff all the time. Like the full season of FX's epic limited series Shogun, FX's new international spy thriller The Veil, starring Emmy and Golden Globe winner Elizabeth Moss. And don't miss the all-new crime series Under the Bridge, inspired by shocking true events and starring Riley Keough and Lily Gladstone. It's all new, and it's streaming now on Hulu.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know, should they check out, if they haven't yet, Ripley on Netflix. Laura Bricker, what do you think? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Ripley?
So I can't believe I'm saying this, because when I started watching this, I was like, this is really boring. I can't believe we're reviewing this. Why does everybody like it? So I will say the pace is slow when you're starting off. And for some people, that might not work. We know I struggle sometimes with pacing and getting into things. However, if you can stick it out to the 3rd episode, which is what I did, because obviously we're reviewing this, that's where, for me, the shift happened and I became much more engaged in the plot and what was happening, and this character of Tom Ripley, who is played in this particular version, I felt like just so sociopathic and cold, and really you latched onto, in terms of like, I just kept watching to see what was going to happen next and if he was going to get away with what he was doing. And so I would say, if you give up after the first episode or 2, I would say come back to it, as I did, because I'm going to go thumbs up with that.
Toy Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for Ripley?
Yeah, so I'm a huge thumbs up. Like this feels like it was like kind of made for me in some ways. I'm not a huge stickler for if movies like completely adhere to all the beats in a book, right? I don't think that's necessary. I think it's more important to kind of have the same sort of nature or feel or whatever. And when it's not like that, like the movie Annihilation, which is another book that I love, when that came out, I was just could not believe how bad that was. I really like Patricia Highsmith. I really like the talented Mr. Ripley. I think this, without necessarily like hitting all the exact same beats, it gets the tone like spot on. I think I had the same feeling watching it that I had reading the book. The acting's great. The black and white cinematography is just kind of unbelievable. Like, it's just so sharp, and I don't know much about filming or whatever, but it just seems like maybe the contrast or something. I don't know. It was such a visually engaging thing. There's creative shots, all that stuff. I thought this was great, and I really hope they do a second season. There's 3 other Ripley books, I believe. I would definitely watch 3 more seasons of this crew doing this stuff. I was expecting a lot, and I still was pleasantly surprised. So big thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm going with big thumbs up as well. The acting was great. I was so brought into the story. Yeah, if you like watching people climb stairs, or you don't, maybe you're thinking this isn't for you. But there's a lot of great things in this, and it's a visual feast. It's a great thriller. It is the kind of thing that you're just going to be like enjoying all the subtextual things happening. And, if I told you, hey, you're going to watch a scene where there's like no dialogue for maybe 15 minutes, and you're going to be enthralled the entire time, you might not believe me, but believe me. Hear me now, believe me later. The hot priest from Fleabag delivers this, and, they're going to start giving him all the Emmys now, I think.
Yeah, this is a great series. Andrew Scott's great. Dakota Fanning is great. Johnny Flynn is great. Elliot Sumner, Baby Stang, is great. Maurizio Lombardi is great. I really, really, really loved this series. I loved it visually. I thought the visuals were their own character. And it's just a hell of a lot of fun. And, if you love the kind of thing where you're like rooting for the wrong person, this show is for you. I love that kind of thing. So yeah, it's for me. Big thumbs up for me for Ripley. All right, that's going to do it for us. But before we go, Laura Bricker, I got to ask you a big fat question. Do we have a cat of the week this week?
We have a big fat cat of the week in honor of the big fat cat that was in this show, which I identified as a Norwegian forest cat, even though it could be a Maine Coon. I'm not sure.
It's one of the two, I think.
Those ones they're gigantic. So this is from Erica Bennett, who submitted a semi-famous cat, one of Erica's cats that she follows on the social media, Sir Jeff, or more formally, Sir Jeffarius Edwarius I,
Wow.
a small but mighty Icelandic ginger cat who also happens to be, somewhat grumpily, the mascot of an amazing coffee shop called School Beans, which is in a school bus. Jeff has a medical condition which stunted his growth, so he's permanently stuck somewhere between being a kitten and being an adult cat. But that doesn't stop him from having adventures. Despite his size, he loves to roam the mountains on the outskirts of town, and he's also too stubborn to back down from any fight. And that's how he became a tripod a few years ago.
Wow.
So now not only is he small, he's got 3 legs.
He's little.
He lost a fierce battle with another neighborhood cat and lost one of his back legs along with his pride. His owners, looking to boost Jeff's self-esteem in the wake of his defeat, decided to rename the bully cats. They are now exclusively referred to as mountain dragons.
Wow.
And Jeff is like a knight. I mean, I would do this for my cat. So if you would like to follow Jeff, he is on Instagram at Sir Jeffarius. And you can check it all out. I love following the Instagram cats. We know I have some of my favorites. So I would check out Jeff. Thank you so much for sending it in, Erica.
Hey, Laura Bricker, if folks want to follow you and see where you've shared Jeff and the other accounts that you follow, if you want to share them on your social media, how can they find you there?
They can find me at Laura Bricker on Twitter and Instagram.
Toy Ball, if folks want to follow you and find out what other things were made just for you, how can they find you online?
Well, I'll even mention one of those things before we go there, because in the last few weeks, I watched Ripley, which was awesome. And the other awesome thing I watched was something called Steve with an exclamation point, which is a 2-part thing about Steve Martin. And it's on Apple TV. And it is
Apple TV Plus.
Apple TV Plus. It is a freaking delight, as everything with Steve Martin is. Just ate it up. So that's another recommendation for you. And if you see it and you like it, you can talk to me about it at TobyBallNH on Twitter.
Kevin Flynn, if people want to follow you and you can share your new favorite Instagram account, Cooking with Beagles, how can they find you online?
Well, much like Steve Martin, I am no longer using X/Twitter because it's just too toxic for me. But I am on Instagram, and you can find me in our Facebook group on Facebook.
Listen, I'm still there. I guess I have a high tolerance for it or something. You can find me everywhere at Reb Lavoie, Twitter, Instagram, the places. You can go on Threads. You can follow me there, but I never post there. So you can follow the show everywhere at Crime Writers On. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Reddit. But mostly I encourage you, if you're on Facebook, join our group. It rocks. Just find our Facebook page, hit join the group. We'll let you in if you know any one of our names. Get episodes early and ad-free by joining us on Patreon/Partners in Crime Media. You'll get the after show, Married with Podcast, Laura Bricker's Leave It to Bricker podcast, and Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast. Our theme song was composed and performed by Ty Gibbons. Our line editor is the terrific Livy Burdett. The executive producer of this program is Mr. Kevin Flynn. This show was recorded in the Treehouse Yoga Studio above the Mockingbird Cafe in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, otherwise known as Studio C, The Closet, in our New Hampshire basement, where we also try on each other's clothes and role play difficult conversations with each other. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Rebecca. So, Kevin, I forgot to buy your favorite cereal. Oh, Rebecca, that's okay. I love you anyway.
Murder!
What just happened?
I was role playing.
Yeah, like Tom does.
Yeah, fantastic. Hold on, let me get naked and put your clothes on.
Oh, God.
Partners in Crime Media. For 25 years, Mike's has been making lemonade the hard way. Mike's Hard Lemonade. Hard days deserve a hard lemonade. Mike's is hard, so is prison. Don't drive drunk. Premium malt beverage with flavors. All registered trademarks used under license by Mike's Hard Lemonade Company, Chicago, Illinois.